is how it is.
Yeah. Is what
We just did a 2.5 hour long interview.
it was awesome. I wasn't
This
bored.
is not that. We're working on our series,
Yeah.
which has gotten very big.
What do you call that series?
When the World Broke.
Oh, that's right. You do call it When the World Broke. I like it.
Yeah,
No,
thanks.
it's good.
But we talked to Professor Richard Spence.
Richard B. Spence.
So
What a man.
he has written books about Aleister Crowley and his knowledge of the occult and a bunch of Jack Parsons, a bunch of stuff that we're going to be covering.
He's a consultant for the Spy Museum
Oh,
in
we
DC.
didn't even talk about that.
I know.
Hannah loves that museum.
We didn't get a chance to.
But be on the lookout for that. We're splitting that episode up into 3 parts.
Yeah.
The first one will be at the back half of the intro episode that we are releasing for that series at the end of this week.
Okay.
But other than that, I mean, like, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. What else do we have going on? I don't know, man.
My head is just ringing with conspiracy
Reeling?
theories. Yeah.
Yeah. It snowed a lot. That sucks.
A lot.
I gave myself a much more complicated bike project.
Yes, you did. I noticed
I
that.
was gonna change out a carburetor, and instead I decided to put a new seat, tank, fender, and bars onto the bike,
Kind of did the whole thing.
and also the carburetor.
And you did get to the
I
carburetor.
might put a quick start on it. I don't know yet,
Okay.
but if I do, then I can get rid of all that bulky shit up top.
And you do hate bulky shit on top.
I don't like bulky shit on top.
You certainly don't.
So we'll see. We'll see about that.
Yeah.
But
It's going to be cool either way.
it'll be awesome. It's already cool. I don't know, man. It's Christmas, you know, that's something.
Yeah, it's that time of year. I'm
I hope-
about to be another year older.
Yeah, I was actually
Yeah.
asked today when your birthday was, and I was like, I think it's now.
It's not now, but it's close. Yeah.
I was like, I think it's right now. When is that?
It's the 23rd.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, whisper it.
Yeah. You don't want to yell something like your birthday. Too old for that.
You know. Well, that's something. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But whatever you do, cough into the mic. That's good.
I didn't
finally
make...
we got our good new mics to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll believe it when the episode comes out and I listen to it. I'm going to listen to that one for sure.
Okay. Well, we got new fancy mics.
They're awesome. I hope you can hear the difference.
Took 2 weeks to figure out how to fucking get all the adapters and shit to plug them in.
You got it. I never doubted you for a second.
Also, I said fuck it exactly one point in the interview with Richard Spence, and I was like, oh, am I supposed to do? I don't know. I think this is fine.
I felt bad when I cursed as well. I was like, whoa, language. We're talking to a
He
professor.
works at a college.
Yeah, this is a man of letters. And
Oh,
distinction.
God. But yeah, I mean, but, you know, you can still order stuff from us for Christmas. I'm not going to guarantee it gets there because USPS is fucking unreliable.
Yeah, they don't seem to like to pick up the shit. on
Or
time.
deliver it.
Yeah.
But we got stuff. Order it for Christmas. Maybe you give it to them on December 27th. Maybe they go, oh, man, just when I got depressed,
Exactly.
I got another present.
Look at it like that.
Yeah, you know, but we got our calendar, new magazine, issue 10, that is now available to buy. It went to the printer at the beginning of the end of last week. It's Tuesday today.
Yeah.
So that'll be out, hitting mailboxes soon. I will warn you that they always sell out before they actually show up. So get on that. You know, don't miss that shit. This episode is brought to you by Hoyt Axton's memory.
That's true. It was sponsored directly by Hoyt Axton.
Yeah. We talked to Matt Axton, Hoyt Axton's son. Hoyt Axton was a musician, actor, many things. You probably know him from being the dad in Gremlins, various TV appearances. He also wrote The Pusher and Joy to the World and Never Been to Spain and the No No Song and Greenback Dollar and a number of other songs.
A number of great songs.
He
Prolific.
His mom also seemingly discovered Elvis.
Yeah,
So, that's
we talk
something I
about
didn't
that.
know.
That's fun.
But we talked to Matt about his dad's legacy. How Matt is continuing to do the Axton family musical
Yeah, we didn't just talk to Matt Axton about
situation.
Hoyt Axton. We talked to Matt about that,
You can go see Matt Axton and his band.
and you should.
They play around. They do Hoyt songs. They do his songs. It seems like a very good time. He's got to come to Kentucky so we can see him.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, this was an uplifting episode.
It really was. Like, I walked away optimistic,
Yeah,
which is odd for me.
felt good. So
Maybe it'll have that effect on people.
enjoy. Joy is a key word in this episode.
It is.
This conversation with Matt Axton.
I'm your black cat baby, your bad luck creeping around the bend.
Like I watched that whole concert video that I posted the reel from.
Yeah.
Just because I was like, I didn't want to watch a movie, and I was like, what seems fun? And I was like, I don't know, this Hoyt Axton show seems fun, and it was fun. And then when you commented on it, I was like, oh yeah, that's gonna be fucking awesome.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you for, like I said on the text thing. Thanks for keeping my dad alive a little bit, and what you guys do. Keeping the history that I love alive too. It's cool.
Well, I got introduced to your dad through my dad, and he very specifically, the other day when I was talking to him, told me to tell you how much he liked seeing your dad whenever he popped up on like talk shows or TV shows. He was always be like, I gotta go. I gotta get the fuck out of here and go home and watch this like Carson or so. You know what I mean? Like, he wanted me to tell you that.
Well,
So,
tell your dad thank you for doing that. That's so cool.
well, he'll hear this. He'll appreciate it.
All right.
This might be the one he's the most excited about. I don't know, but he was pretty
All right.
stoked
Yeah.
on it.
We like
Um,
that. We want to spread excitement and joy. It's a big deal here.
Yeah, man, it seems like I don't know, I've been trying to figure out your dad's career a little bit, in terms of the music, because it seems like early on he started kind of more sounding like a Greenwich Village thing, like a Matt Van Ronk, especially with like the Greenback Dollar stuff. And then suddenly was like, hey, I'm gonna have the funnest country rock band in the world. What? First of all, how old are you?
I just turned 43 the other day, so
Okay,
over the
so
hill officially.
I have no
Happy birthday.
idea.
Thank you.
What year were you born? I can't do
Born
that.
82. 82.
Okay. So you were born right around the time he was in Gremlins. Uh,
Yeah, I was a baby when he was filming that. Basically, I was born right then. So.
yeah, that's cool. So I don't know, man. It seems like your whole family is pretty musical.
Yeah, you come by it honestly, huh?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, my grandma was really heavy in the industry and really big in, songwriting and artist development and promotion. She really believed in sort of the communal aspect of art and especially music and entertainers. And my dad took a little bit of that and ran with it, and then like you sort of said, he started out just doing the solo folk thing. He just grabbed a guitar and jumped in the car and wanted to go experience life, and he did it the old-fashioned way. And then eventually, once he got traction and had enough money and enough connections, he built his dream band, which is the one you were talking about, big like
Right.
10-piece background, background singers, every instrument you can dream of. And that's what I grew up in. When I was born and raised, that's what the tour bus was filled with, that big old band of people, which was pretty amazing.
God, that's cool.
Yeah, it seemed awesome. And like correct me if I'm wrong, but your grandma has a songwriting credit on Heartbreak Hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she wrote Heartbreak Hotel for Elvis, and that's how that whole ball got moving. Not just from her, but also from Elvis's side. She was really a big proponent in sort of kicking off his career and helping him network into starting his career, basically.
How does she do that?
So, this is going back to the beginning of Axton music history, is what I like to say.
All right.
So my grandma in the early 1950s was a PR person. She was a part-time school teacher, part-time songwriter, and part-time PR lady mainly for Colonel Tom Parker, who was
Right.
the guy who sort of found and guided and then eventually took massive advantage and had a lot of fun with Elvis. But
Right.
She was the main PR person for him and his biggest artist at the time, a guy named Hank Snow, who was the biggest
Oh yeah.
country artist on the planet in the 50s.
Okay.
And basically, this was down in the southeast, down in the this was Jacksonville, the South at the time. And my grandma basically saw Elvis start opening up for Hank Snow on this circuit and seeing like all this fervor and this craziness going around. And this is before he was known at all. And she's like, wow, like somebody should really sort of help this guy or like, should swoop him up and make him big. And because of
Right.
her background in promotion, she knew the head of RCA Records really well. And she went over to them and she's just like, hey, this kid's going to be huge. Take it from me. Like, take a chance and sign him. And they did. Basically, all my grandma's, she forced him. She was a very powerful lady. She was the youngest of 9 kids and the only female. So she knew how to tell people
You
what
had to be.
exactly. And so she convinced them and they took that big risk and they signed Elvis at that time to like the biggest contract in the history of mankind, which was only $20,000 back then, but that's a lot.
Jeez,
know,
that's still.
right? Yeah. And so
Not now.
I mean, back.
so they signed him, they took that chance, and after a few months they didn't have a hit yet. So they were getting a little worried. They're like, man, what did we just do? So they went to my grandma and they're like, hey, we know you can write songs. At that point she had written had a couple little hits with like Patsy Cline covers some tunes and Earl Scruggs, like very minor like local hits.
Okay.
So they went to her and they're like, "Hey, you got us signed up to this Elvis kid. How about you write us a song that actually like put him on the board somewhere?" She's like, "Fine." So she got her songwriting partner and they went and got a newspaper and pulled an article out of the back. It was about sadly a guy who had taken his own life and left a note in his pocket that said, "I walk a lonely street." And her in the next 22 minutes, her and her songwriting partner, a guy named Tommy Durden, specifically wrote Heartbreak Hotel to be Elvis's like breakout hit. It was meant for him. She even gave him writing credit, even though he had nothing to do with it. She gave him writing credit so that he could get a little money underneath him and start like, taking care of his family and taking care of himself and investing in his art and stuff. So that was the beginning of his career and Elvis as we know it. Yeah.
So, what was your grandma's name, by the way?
Her name was May Axton, May Boren Axton.
Okay. And did she continue to be involved with Elvis throughout his career?
After that, she wasn't, like hands-on with Elvis after that because, as if anybody knows, like Colonel Tom Parker had a pretty tight leash on that
Right.
Yeah.
when it came to it. But what happened after that, she moved to Nashville immediately and became known as the Queen Mother of Nashville. And so she basically anybody went through her in sort of a networking and a promotion aspect. So she started like Willie Nelson and Reba McEntire and Garth Brooks and Waylon Jennings and Dolly Parton and everybody went through her at some point and got connected in the industry. And that was sort of her lifelong mission and living and stuff after that.
Well, I mean, if you discover Elvis, I imagine a lot
Yeah.
of people are going to start coming
I
to
think
you.
you get a name for yourself doing
That's
that.
what they would. They would just knock on the door when we were there. Just people, hey, I just moved to town. I want to be a singer. She's like, all right, well, show us what you got. Let's see what we can help out. So
She sounds awesome.
she was, like I said, she was a powerhouse of a lady. She did a lot. But having my grandma sort of be the networker and then the promoter allowed my dad to just sort of be the supreme artist creator he wanted to be, and that's why he was able to sort of hop in and out of genres and hop into movies and TVs and voiceovers and performance and stuff. So it took a good little team, as it always does.
So she was doing that. How old was your dad when he started to play songs and actually travel around?
So the story that he's told is when Heartbreak Hotel hit, my dad, I think he was, a junior in high school or a sophomore or something. And he said he came in from football practice one day, walked in the living room, and he saw Elvis and my grandma talking about the musical life, all the good stuff that can come from it. He said, like right there, it just like something clicked in his head. He's like, "This is what I want to do." He's like, "I want to be a musician now." He had dabbled and written a couple little like gunfighter ballads, for fun, just like strumming. But that's when right there when he sort of took it seriously. He did a small stint in the Navy. And then right after that, like I said, he grabbed his guitar and just went to every musical mecca city he could find. He went to Greenwich Village, went up there and networked. He went to Chicago, went down south, went to Nashville, went everywhere he could and just like absorb as much stuff as he could. Eventually made his way to San Francisco in the early 60s and was a big part of that folk scene, and the rest is history after that.
So his first, this might be incorrect, but his first song that got picked up by someone else was Greenback Dollar and the Kingston Trio.
Yeah, that was the
Right.
first,
Well, the first one that was a hit, I should say. Yeah. That's pretty early on. That's like 63, right?
Exactly, 62, 63. That's when he was in San Francisco and just was never, he was just in that scene with all those people. And that song got its little traction. And as soon as that got traction, he moved down to Hollywood. And then, then everything else just started snowballing after that.
So first of all, I run into this a decent amount with his songs. I don't know if it's a decent amount. It's Greenback Dollar and Joy to the World, where like if I hear them like the either the Kingston Trio version or the Three Dog Night version, I'm like, this is fine. And then when I hear the Hoyt version, I'm like, fucking yeah. I'm like, this is the guy that should be doing this. But so he was not in San Francisco when it switched into the whole like hippie scene. He was there before.
Yeah, he was there right at beginning of the 60s and then moved to LA and was part of more of the, he was a big part of that Laurel Canyon scene of like the mid to late 60s.
Oh, wow. Yeah. We're a little familiar with some of that.
Yeah. So when we're talking about like moving to Hollywood, so he was obviously playing music, right?
Yeah.
Was he also trying to get into film at that point?
He wasn't super active in trying to get a film. He said all of his film credits came from music. Like someone would see him play and they'd be
Right.
like, "Hey man, I really I want to write you into this show where I got a good part." Like, and then he got his agent, took it a little more seriously. But music was always a number one. Everything came from his performing and his songwriting and stuff. It always came out of that.
Well, it seems like his filmography. I was scrolling through it. I was like,
Right.
this is just a bunch of the big, but at random seeming times. Where like he wasn't trying to be a regular.
No.
It was just showing up, being Hoyt Axton for an episode, and then taking off, and then being on Bonanza in like 3 weeks or something.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk a little bit about Laurel Canyon. Do you have stories from him about that time period and how it all came together?
I mean, so over the last few years, now that in my hyperactivity of being in this industry and doing the old-fashioned grind, naturally, every show without fail, somebody comes up and tells me his awesome story, and it's like my job to be the library for all this stuff, the
Right.
archivist. Right
You're
now.
the reception.
Because I came around later when he was really like setting his career and it was pretty household name in a lot of ways and just a lot mellower. Had his core band, knew what he was doing, was comfortable. And so I picked the brains of my siblings. I'm the youngest one by quite a bit. My next sibling is 16 years old, then 18 and 20 years older than me. So they were around in those Laurel Canyon heydays. And my oldest brother would tell me stories. So my dad, not only did he live in Laurel Canyon, but he was like the party house in Laurel Canyon. He lived sort of at the mouth of it. So the story was anytime there was more than like two cars in the driveway, everyone would just stop by and just jam and hang out. It was one of those like magical times in history, right? As we all know, Laurel Canyon in that moment in time. And he'd say, like an average Tuesday, my brother's like, yeah, I'd wake up and sort of make myself lunch to go to school, and it'd be like, Joni Mitchell's like making coffee and Bob Dylan's working on a song in the other room, and then Three Dog Nights shooting pool, and like everyone just hanging out. That was just like a Tuesday. How magical that was. But it wasn't. It's magical in a way, but it's not rocket science. It's just community. It's people just being around each other, elevating each other's art, and making good music around there. But the best story my brother told me, he said that because Ringo cut one of my dad's songs called the No No Song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was a big number one hit for him, and so he would come around a lot. They were really like thick as thieves, had a lot of fun. But there was one time my brother said, the Beatles were the biggest thing in the world, and he got in a fight with my dad for some reason, and my dad sent him to his room, and he was just in a huff, and he's like, I'm never coming out, I hate you, Dad. And he said that night was when the Beatles came over to hang out. And like they just partied all night long. And then the next morning he comes out. He's like, "What happened last night, Dad?" He's like, "Oh, you missed it. All the Beatles were here hanging out." And he's like, "Oh my!" He said he never forgave him the rest of his life for that one moment right there. But I think that was just sort of, like I said, that magical little slice of time in that area, and it was just sort of unique in every way.
Well, so when your dad's writing songs, like you obviously have like fun stuff. Like the No No song's a fun song,
Yeah.
right? The Pusher is kind of the same song from a way opposite point of view.
Yeah.
So obviously there's some sort of like knowledge or darkness on the topic of drugs and using. Now, was that something in his life that was a consistent issue, or how'd that come up for him?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, he lived 1,000 lifetimes in his 61 years. Um, and I never saw the guy eat a vegetable, but I saw him have a lot of fun in other ways. But it was also, I call that generation like the test generation around that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Really,
Yeah.
like people would just come up and be, hey man, look at this pill. It makes you like stay up all night. You can do it. You never have to sleep. Hooray! Try this
Right.
powder. It's awesome. And it took a lot of people. It's a powerful thing, and it's part of evolution and growing. And my dad was part of that scene back then. Um, Especially in the 70s, mid 70s, and that kind of stuff was all going crazy. And if you look at it, like even you think the Johnny Cashes, the Hank Williams, everybody in country, it was a big part of that grinding lifestyle of how do you like. It's so hard to be a traveling musician like we do, and you need every little bit to give you a little edge or a little bump. People do
Sure.
that. But so for example, the Pusher was just a straight experience song. He had a buddy he was on tour with. They were doing the solo thing. The guy OD'd in the room next to him, like in the bed next to him, and he woke up and he's like, he said that moment sort of like was one of those life-changing moments where he's like, I can't do it like this anymore. And he poured all his heart down into that song right there, just did it really quick, and that became the Pusher. Saying like, hey man, it's okay to have a little bit of fun, but fuck these, or screw these people.
You can
that-
swear.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
fine.
yeah, screw these people that are trying to like take our bodies and minds.
Yeah, God damn that Pusher, man.
Well, that's the
Damn the
thing.
Pusher.
When I was talking to my dad the other night, he was talking about how that was the first, like I think the first song he heard on the radio where they like cleared "goddamn" because
Yeah.
it wasn't "goddamn," it was "goddamn."
Yeah.
Like the actual term of it. I just think
Like a question.
like a please
plea.
damn the Pusher. Especially, I think '68 is when that song came out by Steppenwolf and hit it big.
Yeah, there's 68, 69 right there. And truthfully, Greenback Dollar was censored when it came out because it said, I don't give a damn. You weren't allowed to say that, in the early 60s.
Oh,
Wow.
that's
And
interesting.
So they changed it. If you Kick the Trio says, I don't give a darn about it a lot of the time.
Right.
And then the Pusher
Doesn't
was
care
another one
anything.
that it was censored at the beginning, not only because it said goddamn, but they thought it was like a pro, they obviously weren't listening to the words. They thought it was a pro drug
Right.
song.
Like,
Oh,
God damn that Pusher,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, man, what a nice guy. Yeah.
Wow.
Great
I mean,
deals.
this song
So-
also opens up Easy Rider.
Yeah, exactly.
like-
Yeah.
I think that's the first song you hear in that movie.
It is, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
and that was so that was a good little, pop culture moment right there, cult moment that solidified that song. And that song, it's really cool the way that came about is, my dad in the 60s when he moved to LA, he became sort of the staple guy at the Troubadour, right? There's a few venues, but the Troubadour was his main home base. And anytime like, somebody would cancel, Doug Weston would call him up and be like, Hoyt, get down here, give us a set. And he'd just go down with his guitar and yell at people. That's what he did. That's what folk music was. And at the time, there was a young busboy in the back. My dad, for anybody that doesn't know, he was a larger than life character, a big guy, and back then he did a lot of yelling, a lot of deep folk storytelling. Really took over a room really well. That was sort of one of his biggest strengths. Really was how to take over a room like that as an entertainer. And so he said. Every time he'd play, like all the busboys would come out and they'd watch him. And there was this one kid whose name was John Kay, and he said, "Hey, Hoyt, if I ever get big, if I ever get a record contract, I'm gonna record that Pusher song because I love it." And my dad's like, "Of course, of course." So as soon as they got their first record contract, Steppenwolf recorded that, and it became a huge hit. So he followed through on his words, But that was just from my dad being in that scene again, and somebody inspiring the next little generation of artists, which is what it's sort of all about.
well,
That's
I also imagine that song and a variety like Joy of the World too, but that song and being an Easy Rider and being such a big hit provided him with the ability to like do more stuff because he's getting fucking paid off of those songs at the time.
Oh yeah, especially
No,
Joy
like
of the
there
World.
There was good contracts for people back then that still existed sometimes. And if you're at songwriting credits, you could actually make money. Now it's not necessarily the case.
Not the case at all nowadays. I
yeah.
mean, all those songs are written by the same like 12 people anyway nowadays.
Yeah, and you gotta, if you're standing in the room, you gotta get a fucking credit.
Yeah.
But so by the time you get to the late '60s, there's an awareness of him from TV shows, but also like songs that have been coming out, people have been covering. like when I talked to my dad about, because I wanted to get the history of him knowing about your dad's existence, right? And I believe what he said was like it took him a period of time to put together that it was like the same guy. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Where he'd hear the songs and be like, "Those are good songs," and then he'd like see your dad on a talk show or Bonanza or whatever, and be like, "I like him a lot." And then like at some point when he started to do like actual like shows that were out and records that were coming out, and people were like, "Oh shit," he was like, "Wait, are you fucking serious? This is the dude that wrote the Pusher." When did that transition happen to where people were like, "I'm aware of Hoyt. I'm going to see him," and it's like a big tour deal?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most rewarding things for me when I play my dad's music and play the shows is seeing those light bulbs connect in people's minds because there's still
Yeah.
people still do not realize he's the same guy. That did that. They recognize that mostly they know him for one thing. They remember him from seeing him on a big screen somewhere, TV. They remember his voice. They remember seeing him play live once, or just remember hearing his song. Like they don't realize he's the same guy. And every show is just like you would hear this audible gasp, like "Oh my God!" Because I tell a lot of stories, right? That's a big part, especially in the more intimate shows when we're doing like theaters. I do a lot of like the Axton history stuff, and that's one of the best parts, truthfully, to see people being like, "Oh my God, that's the same guy. It all makes sense now." Like we just posted a video of my dad who had never been to Spain from something in the '80s, and like every comment is like, "That's the dad from Gremlins. Holy shit, it's the guy from Gremlins." Like 1,000 comments. I have to go like, "Yes, you're right. It is that guy.
Yes.
It is totally that
Yeah,
guy."
yeah. I noticed that because like when I posted mine too, a lot of the comments were like, "That's the dad from Gremlins." It's the same shit.
Yep.
And I mean that's good. It's good that people still there's enduring things that he did that younger generations, know him for, and then you see him again, you can get into all the music and shit. Now
Yeah.
you grew up in Los Angeles, is that correct?
No, actually, I grew up in Lake Tahoe, up in
Okay.
the high Sierra
Okay.
Nevadas.
I
Up
knew
there.
you. I knew you were from. Do you live there now?
I'm in LA now. So
Okay.
my dad was very smart. What he did is he had sort of a compound in LA. Um,
Nice.
always to do a little more of the acting and some of the music. My grandma lived in Nashville, so that was sort of the touring hub and a lot of the countryside. And then my dad
Yeah.
always had a third place where he had to go escape and get centered and be in nature and mellow out. And he lived in Oregon for a little bit. That's where my siblings were born and raised. And then I was born and raised up in Lake Tahoe. Back when it was a very mellow little sort of mountain town, the perfect
Oh, that's,
timing. So my mom's still up there. That is my grounding place, absolutely. Still, but I'm in LA right now trying to do the grind. I'm mainly on the road, to be honest. So I just sleep in this apartment and then I just get in a van and travel. That's basically all
how
we do.
much are you on the road?
And it's been growing exponentially over the last few years. I came down here 5 years ago, 2020, to try and give it the real college try, and then the whole world shut down, which was
Right.
amazing
Yeah.
timing me. And then but it was part of it. It's part of the grind. I had to filter through and figure out exactly what I wanted to do. I came down here to meet other musicians that wanted to do this old-fashioned grind, which is old-fashioned. Like people do not want to tour like this. It's just getting harder financially,
Right.
professionally. It's just the industry is just so different than even 10 or 15 years ago around that stuff. But came down to meet people. Have a good core group. I think this year we were on the road. We did 200 dates, 200 days on the road this year, and did our first big East Coast tour. I mean, we go anywhere the music is needed. What I tell people, like, so we're trying to do it the old-fashioned way, and really just connecting face to face. Like I said, that's what my dad did. That's what my grandma did, and I'm trying to keep that legacy alive the best I can.
You got to come to Northern Kentucky.
Yeah. You got to come to Southgate House.
I would
Oh,
love to see
absolutely,
that
man.
shit.
Yeah.
Until we did we played right outside of Louisville one time, but that's it. We always just go like Nashville, and so like so. Anybody out there, if there's a good place you think needs some, mountain soul
Absolutely.
rock and roll, we will come. We will come hang out with you
We
guys.
know a
need you
good
here.
place. We'll tell you about it.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
give you the information on it and how to get in contact with them. Because
Please,
there is a
please.
good place that would be good for you to
It'd be
play
a
at.
very good show.
Absolutely.
So growing up in Tahoe, now were you going to LA to visit your dad or see him? What did that look like?
So one thing that's different about my legacy story than most other legacy kids is my mom was my dad's piano player and band manager and music manager. So most
Okay.
of the, most legacy people have one normal parent that stays home and like keeps everything grounded.
Right.
Right.
But we didn't
You
do that.
didn't.
as soon as it was time to hit the road, the whole family, we just hopped in the bus and went. So, you know, we were together a lot. It was, at that point, my dad had a very consistent band. He's had the same band for about 10 years. So it was really just like a big mobile family at that point. You know, but my dad, because he was doing a lot of acting and stuff too, he would, you know, we do a lot of like hop off, one offs, go fly here to do a thing and then meet up with the band again. There's a lot of logistics going on, moving all that stuff like that, you know. But yeah, it was absolutely, it was a everyday, you know, living and breathing it type thing, which was amazing. I thought every kid got to do that. Only when I got a little older, I realized that was absolutely abnormal.
Did you appreciate that the whole time? Like, I know a lot of people look back and they're like, oh, you know, turns out that was a really cool experience. But did you know it at the time?
I mean, I didn't think I obviously,
Or was it just normal?
it was normal, but
Yeah.
I loved in the fact that we were in a different place every day. You know, we
Yeah.
were meeting new people. My dad was, like I said, a very welcoming person when it came to like his fans and just socializing around that stuff. He really believed that that's sort of what the whole point of any celebrity is, just to connect with people. And
Sure.
so it was just a constant train of people. Every time we'd stop at a bus truck, you know, any bus stop or a truck stop, it'd be like a line of people coming and saying hi, and my dad had given
Yeah.
them all little merch things, and like that was just a routine thing for my dad. He really sort of found a lot of joy in doing that. So to me, that was magical, right? Just being around that many people, being that open and that
Yeah.
creative with people was sort of something I try to take from my dad. That I don't think a lot of celebrities, especially modern celebrities, sort of interact the same way. You know, they don't really do that as much.
No, I don't think it's that common anymore.
No.
Well, it seems like I heard this phrase. I don't remember where I heard it, but it was about like celebrity in, you know, the 50s, 60s, etc. Right? Where like there was an era of or an aura of like, you know, specialness about them, but they were more attainable to actually get in contact with. You know,
Yeah.
where people held them in higher esteem often, but you could actually,
But they weren't so untouchable.
yeah, they weren't untouchable.
Yeah.
You could go out and fucking meet them. You know, if you went to, like, my dad grew up in Westport, Connecticut, partially, and Paul Newman would go to the beach, and he's just fucking there, and everyone's mom is like, "Holy fuck, it's Paul Newman!" But like, he's, you know, including my grandma, obviously.
Yeah.
But he's still like an attainable person who just lives in the town.
Yeah.
But was there a point in time where you realized that, like, hey, I think my dad might be Hoyt Axton? You know what I mean? Like, where you're like, people are noticing.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, because when I came around, he was so set already. You know, everybody
Yeah.
knew him. It was a little different. It was just like that. You know, it was just, and that was the atmosphere that he really liked to create around himself too. Like I said, very inclusive. He was that guy who waited till, even if he just played 5 hours show, he's gonna wait till every person gets their autograph and says hi and like connects. That was just sort of his mentality, and that's mine too. It's like these people are taking time out of their busy lives to invest and care about what you're doing. The least you can do is give them a little bit of yours. You know, I mean that's my.
Well, that's a
thought.
kind outlook.
Yeah, right.
You
Yeah.
know,
It ain't easy. And one thing, you know, talking about older school like mentality in the industry is like that's how you made the goal is to make lifelong friends and fans, really. You know,
Yeah.
where social media has sort of corrupted all that, where it's just like this quick dopamine
Definitely.
hits. Everything is, you know, somebody he's right there, but he's never going to be close, right?
Mhm.
The biggest people, and you're never going to interact with them on a daily basis. And like back then, that's how you made your fans forever. You had to like, you know, they heard your song on the radio once and they took a chance to come see you, or a friend told you about them or whatever, or you told them about you. And so you got to make sure to solidify and show them that you're a real person that values their attention for a moment. And it's really important, I think.
and there's a story. A venue owner here told me this, where in 2014 or 15, it was a Billy Joe Shaver and Kinky Friedman show,
Mhm.
which is a cool show. Uh, but she was talking about how before the show, both of them were standing at the doors to this venue, like as people were coming in, shaking people's hands and like being like, "Hey, man, thanks for coming," you know. And it's fucking Billy Joe Shaver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who he is at that point. They're there to fucking see him, but he's standing there as they're coming in, and then as they're leaving, he's doing the same thing, being like, "Thanks, I really appreciate you being at this show," you know, all that.
That's crazy.
And I
I
mean,
love that.
yeah, it's very cool. But also, apparently, he went around and tipped out every individual person that worked at the
See.
venue like $500.
I love that.
Because he's Billy Joe Shaver, and he drank a total of 24 Red Bulls in about 6 hours. But
Jeez.
there does seem to be a way that people used to go about doing things in terms of specifically music, but acting and other art forms as well, where they did need to go meet people. People had to make appearances and give interviews, but like also go talk to fans. And now, like you said, they're always right there, but not attainable. I also find with what we do that once you get to a certain point, you're hidden behind managers.
Yeah.
And managers are the fucking worst, dude. Like, and then it becomes this thing where like the person is untouchable to even get a question to about doing something,
Forget about having a conversation.
Yeah, forget about
You can't
conversation. You can't even get to the fucking person, which is why I circumvent managers whenever I can.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm curious what your opinion on that switch is. Is it because of social media? Like, how do you go from people like shaking hands at a venue to not even being able to talk to another company?
Well, I mean,
Like, what
I think
is
that's
that?
a big part of it, right? A big part is just the fact that our socializing in general as a species now has just been is like a kiddie pool. I used to have these deep connections, and now it's everything surface level. And it's one of those things like as soon as like you're talking about, as soon as somebody has any bit of celebrity, even if they grew their celebrity through social media or that, that as soon as they have it, all of a sudden it's 5 layers deep. And you're never going to talk to that person ever again. They're probably never even going to see that message, even if it's a super personal, important message that might actually make them happy and they'd want to see it. It's never going to reach them because there's 5 layers of filter. And like for me, because it's been really hard for me because my dad and grandma had such a communal mindset and aspect to their professional careers and like growth around other artists and care for that it's something I really try to work on and create around myself as well and the people I interact with professionally. But it's just something that the industry does not support from top down. And at the same time, we live in a monopolistic world right now where the industry has just been taken over by people that do not have a creative bone in their body and are just trying to squeeze as much profit out of something that art is inherently a communal thing. It's meant to make. Our job is to condense life into these small moments that give people an escape or give them a reason to smile or dance or whatever. That's our job. Give them a little meaning for life for a moment, and that seems to be really just dumbed down and sort of disappeared in a lot of ways. And I think social media is a big reason of that, but it's also sort of the industry, like we're talking about from the top down, how they interact. There's no A&R departments anymore. Like back in the day, even 20 years ago, if you were a functioning band that had a good sound and had something that was one to grind, the industry would go send people. They'd send it out to these little events and be like, hey, find people. They don't do that anymore. They just
something we hear a lot.
Yeah, there's
actually
TikTok.
talked about that.
You got a million things, cool. They'd rather have a million artists that all make them $1 million than one super band that's going to live for 40 years and change the world. They just don't want that stuff anymore.
Absolutely.
But the underground people do. That's one thing that I find is a big motivator for me. Is every show we meet somebody that's saying like, man, I like the way you're doing it. It feels like old school, like we were caring about the art, caring about the community aspect of this, caring about growing and supporting other people that other creatives, and it's way harder. It's way harder to do, but I think it's going to be way more rewarding when it does click. And there's a lot more. I'd rather have a full soul and an empty wallet than the other way around.
Amen.
I mean, there's a thing I read in the book about marketing where it's talking about, Brandy by Looking Glass versus the Grateful Dead, right? Where Brandy by Looking Glass had this like crazy spike, but then it fell right off and nobody now sees Looking Glass. The Grateful Dead never had a song to rival Brandy, Touch of Grey got close, but still didn't get there.
Right.
But you're looking at people selling out the Sphere for a version of that band now still, and it's like they're selling it out every night, and it's 22 times a summer, and all the tickets are gone. You can't find any. There's like 3 or 4 generations of fans going to them because people are so intensely ingrained into the culture and the band. But that one spike, if Looking Glass was around now, that would be a TikTok song,
Right?
And it would be a lot of fucking money in a TikTok song, versus you can't put a fucking Dark Star over a TikTok for any reason.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be anything.
It's not.
I don't know, man. We talked about this a lot. I talked to Eli from Leroy from the North, who's out in LA as well, because I can't figure out why, you know, there's obviously people in the Americana scene who are big names and make a lot of money. Billy Strings, Tyler Childers,
Farrell.
Sergio Simpson. You'd think that labels would go around to a scene like in LA, their own fucking town,
Yeah, you'd think they'd
that
try
is
to
an
find-
Americana scene. They'd be like, hey, we can find more of these people. But you're saying there's no A&R departments.
Yeah. I mean that is completely. I'll tell you, I've been down here 5 years. I produce a monthly music Americana series down here in LA, and I've never ever seen an industry person in not only any of my shows but any ancillary show around it. They just do not do that anymore. It's not a hands-on adventure, like you said. It's a small group of people scrolling for just looking at numbers on a TikTok video, and then that's what they're doing. They're not looking at longevity or quality of content or character or any of that stuff. And I think actually, I think the industry's painted itself in a corner, and it's starting to lose. Especially with AI takeover right now, where everything is just going to become so ubiquitous and vanilla and boring that real organic art is going to start having a comeback. People do really value, because the one thing you cannot get on social media or AI, you cannot get the real face-to-face visceral engagement. You just can't do that.
Yeah, there's no connection.
There's no deeper connection, which human beings need that. That's part of being in a society. We like inherently need that. And like I said, I hear it every show, people talking about that's the way it felt back in my dad's era. And we just try to sprinkle a little bit of that the best we can on our limited independent artist budget. But that is a huge motivating thing, and I think it's coming back. There's a movement to it right now that's really cool. And those guys you mentioned, like the Sturgills and Tyler Childers and Sierra Farrell, all these people, like, they're doing it right. They're sort of on the top end of it. I wish personally, if I was in a room with them, I would ask them maybe to become their own A&R departments and maybe start like picking people, like lifting up the scene a little bit, because it is needed and there's a lot of fans for it. And especially with retro countries having a huge resurgence right now, which is really cool to see. But Americana inherently lives in the little in-between area where it's a little rock and roll, a little country, a little soul, a little bit of whatever you want to throw in there. And that's why I love. That's why I love Americana.
Yeah.
Well, like, there was that song that came out that hit #1 on the country charts. That was just an AI song, 100%, right? And it's indistinguishable from a fucking Morgan Wallen song. I couldn't tell a difference, right? But like, if you're like, why do I like your dad's version of Joy to the World? It's because I like the way he says joy and girls. You know what I mean? AI is not gonna fucking growl it in that way. It doesn't make any. It doesn't know to do that. Or like Lightning Bar Blues. I fucking love that song, by the way.
Yes.
AI is not gonna make it sound fun. It can't make it sound like there's a party going on in the background of the song.
Yeah.
It's just, and you can tell. I mean, people that are into this can tell. There's a lot of people that can't tell and don't care.
Right. I think the ones that don't care can't tell.
But the people that are into this, and obviously, like, I've seen it with my company, is everything we do is either directly old shit, or I try and maintain like the same ethics of it in a way that you do, of like, no, this is made by people, first of all, right? Like, the designs are all like, I did them. It wasn't me plugging shit into a computer. We're trying to talk and have long form conversations because we don't have anything like the Dick Cavett show anymore. Podcasts are as close as we can get. But they're good. I mean, people want it. That's why podcasts are huge, because we actually get to the core of something in a way, and I hope that you're right. And it's a very optimistic view that people do want, that reality, and that it is going to have a resurgence. But it's hard to tell for me. And it seems like the LA scene, from what I know, is pretty good in terms of Americana, and people go to the shows. Is that correct?
I would say yes, mainly because also Americana is so broad, as far as the industry term, right? We can throw in, like, we have a show tonight where it's like we have a 9-person like soul funk band, and then we have like a Cuban, a Latin Cuban dance band, and then like a folk opener. Like, I like to sort of mix that up and sort of mingle, open people's minds and mingle fan bases. I think this is all going to happen at the grassroots level. Like I said, it's not going to happen from the top down. It's all
Right.
going to happen from the old-fashioned thing of like, hey, did you hear about this person? We love it. Like, check them out, check them out, check them out. Like that old way.
Definitely.
Well, I mean, I've said this before on this show, but the definition that I've come up with of Americana is just any style of American music that's made genuinely. And that encompasses a lot of things, but that's like, you're not in the genre of a Cuban like funk band,
Yeah.
but they're both like American music, you
Yeah.
know. They're both, and I mean, you obviously love and care about what you do, and I imagine they do as well, you know. But what do your shows look like? Like, what are you doing when you get on stage?
I mean, it's a mix. That's one thing that is becoming uh, very intentionally becoming sort of a calling card of us is really adjusting our show to the venue and the area and stuff. It's a lot more work. And my dad, I consider my dad one of the first like true Americana artists in the fact that he did not care what genre he was in ever. He just wanted
Yeah.
to make a good song, and whatever that happened to land in, that's where it lived. He did not care. That's why you get the No No versus, Greenback Dollar versus the Pusher versus Joy of the World. It's all over the place, right? It's a human experience on that
Yeah.
show. So for us, let's say on our last big tour out east, in the same stretch, we'll go do a seated theater show where it's a little more intimate, lighter volume, a lot more stories, a lot more laughing and fun stuff. And then we'll go do a late night honky tonk, which is just drink beers, have a good time, let's get people dancing. And then we'll go do a jam festival the next day where it's like, hey, we're just gonna let loose and let's have a little more fun and change our set. So like, it's a lot more work on our end. But like I said, it's once that connects, I think it's gonna be a lot more longevity for us, and it's really about being creative and sort of testing ourselves and pushing ourselves as artists too. That's really fun for me. But the show I run down here is intentionally small. Like I have it in this really cool little bar called Bigfoot, and it feels like you're in a cabin in the woods. Get a couple hundred people in there. It's just like feels like you're in a DIY Americana punk show, just on top of the band. It's very like interactive and very just communal. And I make sure all the shows when I can are free. I think that's important too because everyone's just getting so stretched right
Right.
now, and it's like let's make this really inclusive spot that people can just be themselves and listen to original music that we care about, the art aspect and the originality of it. I think it's really important to me. So that's what it's like a little bit, a lot of joy and a lot of whiskey.
Well, you mentioned Joy. Don't you do a music a festival or an organization, something Music Joy in Tahoe?
Absolutely.
What is that?
So the series that I run down here in LA is called Americana Joy. That's it's just a monthly series that we do. Like I said, it's all original, all free. That's what's happening tonight. And then offshoot of that, in my hometown of Tahoe City, a small little mountain town, I do a festival called the Joy Festival, which is completely free benefit festival. All the money goes to local art and environmental nonprofits. So it's very like soul healing aspect, but it's
Yeah.
right there on the lake, and it's get like 10 bands and just a few thousand people and just have a bunch of fun in a beautiful place. And then because of that, I just started a music nonprofit called the Joy Foundation, which is all about um, giving support for independent artists, whether it's professional, promotional, production stuff, anything that can just sort of give people a leg to stand on and try and get their art out there. So that just started a few months ago, and really trying to make that a thing to, just like I said, just support independent artists. I think it has to happen, and I know there's a lot of people that do care about that. It's just connecting the dots and making it happen.
Now, it seems like the concept of inclusivity, joy, kind of just like general happiness comes up a lot with your family's musical history. Uh, I'm just curious, is there just like your favorite story of your dad? Do you have one of those? Like, what do you
Favorite
think sums
story.
him up to you?
I mean, so
The
that's tough.
definitive Hoyt Axton story.
Yeah, the Hoyt Axton
The
story.
Hoyt Axton story.
It's funny because every artist has their arc. Like we've talked about on this interview, he started out very, very dark folk, deep artist that way. And then as his life grew and his notoriety and all that stuff allowed him to be a little more carefree and fun. And eventually, Joy to the World became his mantra, and really is how he interacted with the world. He was not a perfect person by any means. He did a lot of crazy things, lived a really big life in his time, but joy was always the sort of the center of it. My favorite stories are more like little ones. So my dad would do you know, one thing that he loved to do is when he was driving in towns, he would love to throw money out the bus window. He would see somebody, he was like, that guy needs some money, and he'd just like sneak it out the window, and he'd make sure to watch the guy pick it up, and just like person would look around, and he'd be like, okay, like that. He got such a high from that all the time, just like sneaking happiness into people's lives.
Sneaking happiness to
Big thing. He loved doing that. Now, I wish he didn't do that as much because I don't have any of his money, but I get it. I get it. You know, like I saw what that did.
Joy to the world, but also me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what about me, man? But like I said, I mean, I get to keep his legacy alive through his blood and his music, and that's something that's amazing for me. But there was those little things. One thing that I think is one of the more telling things we talked about. He was in the middle of those celebrity circles. He knew everybody. He was one of the few people that sort of hopped between live performance, songwriting, movies, TV, voiceovers, radio. He did a functional career in all those things. A lot of people did not do. Right? Even though, like talked about on TV and movies, he was never a star, but he just loved being a part of it. He was always the sheriff or the dad or one of the, he was the voice of reason in a lot of things, or the outlaw in some things, which was pretty traumatic as a kid to see your dad get killed routinely on TV. It took a while.
Bad. You don't think about that often, do you?
No, as a kid, I was very traumatic. He's never coming back. Mom's like, it's a movie. It's okay.
Jesus.
But one of his artistic mantras that I really believe in and try to follow is sort of talking about genres, especially like Americana. Like I said, I consider him one of the godfathers for this reason. Is he said every year Billboard magazine would the year-end year-end issue, they'd produce like the who's who in what genres, right? It had everybody in their genres, the rock, the blues, the whatever, the pop. And he said there was always one category that said other, and it was always Hoyt Axton by himself. And he said that was the most prideful thing in his entire life. He's like, I just want to be an artist. I just want to make good music. Right. And that was sort of like his mentality around that. And I think, his catalog shows that. You go all over the world. Whenever somebody reaches out, they're like, I'm going to go down the Hoyt Axton rabbit hole. I'm like, it's deep, man. It's a long rabbit hole. You're going to go into places you never thought, but it's going to be really rewarding at the end of that kind of stuff, But that's mainly it. It's a lot of these little, just daily interactions that he really believed made the world a better place.
I mean, I know that my dad, being someone who was aware of your dad, it did bring him happiness. That's why he always made sure to watch him, when he was going to be on something, because he was like, I fucking love that guy. Yeah. He was like, it makes me feel good to watch him. So just from one, consumer, it worked.
It worked.
It worked. Still talking about him 60 years later,
if that's proof of anyone else doing that, which I imagine it is, based off of his legacy and how many people like I know still recognize him and listen to him, it clearly, even though he's gone, there is still joy being brought to people by the work that he left behind.
And then you're doing it too. That's pretty great.
We're trying, man. We're trying. Like my dad, I'll tell everybody, we're a very open book on this stuff. My dad did not take care of the end of his life stuff very well. So I have a very, very wealthy ex-stepmother who has everything. I've never seen a penny of my dad's money or any of that kind of stuff. So that's never been really a motivating factor for me. It's always been, like I said, the community and the art aspect and keeping his and my grandmother's legacy alive. I think that's a really important thing. And luckily, they wrote a bunch of good music. There's some legacy kids that have to keep crappy music alive.
That's a good point.
I don't have to do that, which makes my life very, very fun. And like for me also, I get to hear so many great stories, learn new things about them. And that's one of the magic things about being an artist in general. You live on as long as your music and your art is being seen and heard. And that's magical to be able to turn on the TV sometimes and I can see my dad, turn on the radio and I can hear him. And that's a very magical thing for me as a child of an entertainer like that.
Yeah.
Even if he's getting shot at the end of the episode.
Right.
Even if he gets shot, and it's just acting, man. It's just acting.
No.
But one thing I also get a lot is people always ask, like, your dad seemed like such an approachable, nice guy. Was that what he was like? And I will tell you, unequivocally, my dad was that person. There was no errors in what he did. Not saying that he was always just this wide open person. Everybody has their time where they gotta, recharge their battery and be their deep artist. But he was one of those people. He did not believe in celebrity as a human right. He just thought it was a way to connect with people, and he really enjoyed that part. And that was always him. He was always the most genuine, sort of larger than life teddy bear, really. And so I believe in that as well. Like, there's nothing. We're all people. Nobody's special, but everybody's unique, and we should all respect that. That's my.
Yeah, man.
Amen.
This has been a very uplifting episode
Yeah,
in a lot of
yeah.
ways.
There we
I
go,
feel
yeah.
good about this. Giving me optimism.
But
we
before we
need it
get
right now, man. We need it.
Yeah, no shit.
before we get out of here, I would also like to acknowledge that I really love the song Evangeline. That's a great song.
Oh yeah.
But
Maybe
but
his best. Maybe his most well-crafted. Like, it's a perfect song, I think.
it's fucking incredible. And there's a number of them, but every time that one comes on, I'm like, oh yeah, this one too. But also, what do you have coming up that you want people to know about? How can they find you, see you, experience what you're doing?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we have the Joy Foundation is our new foundation. Americana Joy is our monthly series down here in LA that we do take on the road. We've taken up to Nashville before, the same sort of process of all original music. We like to get eclectic, original, talented, growing people on there. Is really important, always accessible. MattAxton.com is where you can find all my stuff. It has little links to all that. There's a little tree growing all that. It has a little bit of Axton history, which is always growing and fun. And right now, you guys are the first people I'm going to tell about this, but we're releasing our EP at the beginning of 26, and then we're going to go to Tulsa and record a full album like the good old days. We'll lock
awesome.
ourselves in a studio for a couple weeks and come out with an album. And really, next year we're really trying to, push this thing as hard and fast as possible, and ideally make a little wave and spread a little bit of joy. So
That's great.
Amen.
Thank you for doing this, man. After we stop recording, I got to give you contact information for someone.
Yeah, we got to get
But
you here.
thank you for
Thanks.
doing this. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it was terrific to meet you, Matt. Thank you.
you guys too. Thanks for as you guys know, social media land is so weird. Sometimes you just poke people and nothing happens, and it was just fun to, I love watching your guys' stuff, so I had to poke back and say thank you, and I'm glad it snowballed into this. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's easy. Like I'm easy to deal with. I'll just talk to people.
Yeah.
But I don't have a fucking manager.
Right.
You know,
Like, that sounds cool.
if you message our Instagram, I'll be the one that fucking sees it. You know. But yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you again, man.
Well, no, thank you. Thanks your dad. Hopefully he gets a little joy from this.
I was gonna love this.
Oh, he's gonna fucking love it.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me spread a little bit of joy.
Okay.
Amen.